This video is for Gossip Karishma, who's asked me to make a video about an A-level poem that she's studying. Um, I'm quite interested in this because I'm not teaching A-level at the minute. However, in the past I've taught A-level English and thought actually what I'm teaching my students at A-level is possibly easier than what I was teaching them at GCSE. So if you've been following my A-star videos at GCSE, it's very likely that you're ready for A-level. So the poem that she wants me to look at is in this collection, Songs of Ourselves, and it's called I Dream of You by Christina Rossetti. And she's given me the mark scheme, which is what I asked for, because that's always where you start with any kind of analysis. So the mark scheme is the Cambridge International Board, and band 1 is obviously the top mark. Let's have a look at what the examiners say. This is for very good work, but they ask you to remember this. There will always be some candidates who are at a standard over the top of the mark scheme. So message number 1, your work does not have to be perfect. Evidence of a very good ability to select relevant knowledge. That's the same as at GCSE. To be able to use quotation and reference. There may be evidence of sensitive awareness. Well, what does that mean? It means that you're exploring possibilities. It might be interpreted this way, or on the other hand, that way. Of the context in which the literary work studies were written and understood. So you do need an understanding of the context of this poem, and I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to teach you about the poem without knowing about the context, and I'll show you why I'm doing that later. One of the reasons is it will provide evidence of the writer's choices of structure, form and language, and how that influences our understanding of the poem. That's what shape meanings means. And we'll have to also talk about literary methods, so the assonance, the alliteration, the rhyme scheme, the fact that it's a sonnet, whatever. Next, your response will have to be personal, and a personal response will generally react to the actual text, the words on the page, and not necessarily the context that it was written in. So when you're writing your personal response, you're writing about, if you like, your personal context, how this poem relates to other works of literature that you've read, and that's your context. And then finally, candidates will express complex literary ideas and arguments with clarity and fluency. And the easiest way of paraphrasing that is you will say as much as you can with as few words as possible. You're going to have to structure your answer with a short introduction and a conclusion. Your conclusion will have a quotation in it, I hope, and you'll try to end with that quotation. There'll be a logical progression, which means if we chopped up your paragraphs, we could only put them back in that same order that you wrote them in because your argument links. And that's what effectively linked paragraphs mean. Okay, let's go and have a look at the poem. Okay, well here it is. And the first thing that I notice, I haven't read this poem before, by the way, and I deliberately haven't looked up its context, is that it means unknown woman. And then the subtitle is I Dream of You to Wake, which is peculiar because we don't know if this means I dream of you in order to wake you up, or I dream of you in order to wake myself up. And this ambiguity is going to be carried on all the way through the poem. So the first thing you have to do is to decide why that ambiguity is there. Now you might know something about the context of Christina Rossetti, who she's written this poem about perhaps, or who it's to, that will help you answer that question. But equally, texts exist on their own outside of their context, and so you might just say, decide to view this as a love poem. And if you do, what's interesting is we never find out the sex of the person it's written to. So is it to a man or a woman? And your interpretation of that might change as you go through the poem. I dream of you to wake. Would that I might dream of you and not wake, but slumber on. So here's our first clue that the person they're dreaming about is no longer as responsive to them. Perhaps this person is dead, or perhaps this is a lover who has left them. Now, Christina Rossetti could tell us this, but she deliberately doesn't. Therefore, we must ask why. Well, an obvious reason might be that she wants this to be a universal poem that will be able to speak to as many readers as possible. Another reason is she might be deliberately ambiguous because she really wants the reader to struggle. And when poets do this, it's because they want the reader to experience what they themselves, the writer, is feeling. So it indicates the very struggle that Christina Rossetti might be going through. Or a third possibility is that this isn't an autobiographical poem at all, but the character is struggling, and therefore Rossetti wants us to feel that character's struggle because we ourselves struggle. You will notice as we go through that an idea in one line is repeated in the next. This is, if you like, a coupling, like two people who are ideally matched. But in this poem, the couplings are in opposition. So we've got wakefulness here, but then in this line we've got sleep. So each line contains its opposite, which could be to reflect through this structure how the lovers, if they are lovers, are apart, either because one has left or because one has died. Nor find with dreams the dear companion gone. So this companion in real life has left Rossetti, but in dreams still returns. As summer ended, summer birds take flight. And so we've got the sense that whoever's gone has gone at the wrong time. They've left at the best time of the year, and this is a metaphor for the best time of their lives. So this is someone who's been taken away too early from the perspective of the speaker, who I'm going to call Rossetti throughout, though it may not be. In happy dreams, I hold you full in night. And so this is a very sexual image now. So it's not just nighttime because she's having dreams, it's nighttime because of the types of dreams. Obviously, we've got a Victorian era here where the sexual act would not be described. However, this use of the word full is to leave us in no doubt that this is a sexual holding. I'm holding you fully, in every sense of the word. And this is then emphasized by her reaction, I blush again. So this is a memory perhaps of lovemaking that they've had in real life, and also lovemaking that they've had in the dream. Again, this idea of the secret blush, where there's nobody else around, is there, suggests that there was something secret about this love, which again helps us ask the question, perhaps this is love for another woman, not necessarily a heterosexual love. And a further clue to this is how when she's awake, she looks so wan, so pale. Of course, another interpretation of that might be that she looks pale because she's now deprived of the person that she loved, because this person has left either through choice or death. Brighter than the sunniest day that ever shone, in happy dreams your smile makes day of night. So this is a metaphor for how happy the speaker feels during her dreams when that person has returned summer to her. Thus only in a dream we are at one. Now, this use of the word at suggests that something specific has happened here. At suggests a moment in time. So my reading of this line is that this lover has not died, this lover has chosen to leave. And then a further clue to that is this idea of give and take. This is a metaphor for a relationship, and this person is obviously no longer giving and taking. This person has departed. It's not an idea of God giving with one hand and taking away with the other because of the use of the word we. This is clearly the lover's behaviour with each other. The faith that maketh rich who take or give. And so this is a secular faith. It's not a faith in God, it's a faith in the relationship, and a faith that if you take or give in a relationship, if you do both, that's what gives you riches. And we have an image here that in life this lover has decided no longer to give but only take. So it's ultimately their selfishness that has driven them away. So now our question is, well, is this lover someone who she's better off without? Has she created a better version of the lover in her dreams? Or has she created in her dreams the way the lover used to be? If thus to sleep is sweeter than to wake, so she's starting to develop an argument here. If it's better off for me to sleep than to be awake, because in sleep I can picture you in this way, to die were surely sweeter than to live. So she's using an extended metaphor here and suggesting that this is the kind of sleep that Hamlet talks about, to sleep perchance to dream, when he's talking about death. And so she's suggesting that maybe she'd be better off dead, because in death she would always be sleeping, she would always be dreaming, and she would always have her lover with her. And would that be sweeter than living? Well, that question could just be with a question mark here and just be left, but she decides to answer it with her final line, which is very peculiar. Though there be nothing new beneath the sun. So the word though here is a real puzzle. If she's asking, is it better to be dead than to be alive because there's nothing new under the sun, so I'm never going to recapture what I had, everything in life is the same, there's no novelty left, then that would make sense. She's going to kill herself. However, though there be nothing new beneath the sun, suggests that that she's rejecting the idea of suicide. The idea of suicide becomes one of the things that is not new beneath the sun. And so now we've got the possibility that this poem is also about poetry. I can't end it in a way where, as a distraught lover, I choose to end my life, because that's not new, that's just a cliche. And this poem is trying not to be a cliche. So if we return to it here, how is it not a cliche? Well, it's about an unknown woman. We're not sure of this woman's intentions, but now suddenly we're thinking, well, maybe the object of the affection is also an unknown woman. This is a relationship which is out of the norm. Now, of course, there would have been many lesbian relationships in Victorian England, but they would be secret and hidden because they were not socially acceptable. Then we would link this to the idea of it being a sonnet, which is obviously traditionally a love poem. So the object of love is secret, and that makes us reinterpret the final line. So now she could be saying that this lesbian relationship is not corrupt because these relationships have existed forever. Nothing is new beneath the sun, and therefore they're normal. So I hope this has shown you how to react to a poem without knowing the context.